Hello all, I'm Wadabra. Welcome back to Adastra. In the last episode, Amicus decided to take Marco and Alex out on a little beach excursion. We learned that Alexios hates water, that Marco can swim well for a primate, and that Cassius has a brittle bone disease and used to look up to Amicus when they were younger. Marco taught Amicus his style of swimming, making the wolf nigh unstoppable in the water. Marco saw Amicus's genitalia and learned that the wolves have medication to slow their aging processes. Then the two share a few moments of friendly playfulness before realizing Amicus is late for his appointment with Kato, and the trio head back to the palace. That's the recap. Please remember to like and share this video for the glory of the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next episode. And as always, content warnings and a link to my Patreon can be found in the description below. Let's get started. The amphitheater is small compared to the massive one I'd seen in Rome. It might only be able to fit 100 people, at most. Though Alex tells me that the really big one is in the city center. He sits next to me on the bottom bench with the stairs between us as we watch Amicus stand alone in the center of the pit. He has his paws on his hips, looking around, waiting.
Well, I don't think he's here.
Clearly.
Do you want to be my sparring partner for the day, Alex?
No!
Alex scrunches up, one paw going up to cover his earring as Amicus just laughs. I look around, not seeing the old wolf anywhere. Are you gonna get in trouble, Amicus? Amicus shrugs, leaning one way, then the other in a sort of stretch.
Probably. But Kato is always upset. He'll probably just make me train an extra hour tomorrow or something. Besides, I got most of my exercise in at the lake.
Amicus suddenly does a handstand, his feet poking straight up in the air, and I'm amazed that he's able to keep perfectly balanced. Alex quickly looks away as the hanging cloth on the wolf's undergarment falls upward, even if everything is still covered. Well, mostly. I can see the lighter colored fur that covers his front also covering his inner thighs. Then Amicus falls backward, keeping his paws on the ground while his feet land with a thump. The wolf's back arched, making a bridge. It's kind of impressive seeing such a thick, muscular body be so limber. That's when I notice Amicus looking directly at me from his upside-down position, watching me, watching him. I quickly look away, blushing, realizing the wolf is just showing off. Amicus pushes off his paws, smoothly standing up straight.
Well, I suppose we could go back to the palace, since I'd need a partner to do the rest of my training. Unless...
Amicus glances at me.
Marco, would you like to assist me?
I freeze up for a moment, still feeling a bit awkward at being caught staring at his body. I know I can say no, but Alex is here, and I don't want to come off as a belligerent pet in front of him. We're still sort of pretending, after all, even though Alex probably thinks something is off about me.
Don't worry, I'm not going to hurt you. It would probably be the other way around.
All right. I get up and stand awkwardly in front of the half-naked wolf, glad that I'm at least in my robes now.
Do your people have combat sports?
Yeah. Actually, there were a few where your people uplifted. Wrestling and something else where they basically just beat each other up. I can't remember the name of it, though. Amicus smiles.
That sounds similar enough. And this is called pugnu, and it mostly involves punching, kicking, and grappling. The only rules are no claws, no teeth, and no going for the eyes. Or groin.
Amicus smirks at me.
And while sparring, we avoid striking above the neck. So, go ahead and throw some punches at me.
Amicus grins and hunches down, his paws out. I look over at Alex, who watches us, a bit of a disapproving look on his face. Amicus notices.
Don't mind Alex. His people are too soft for this sport.
Excuse me, but we invented the grapples you use. We just grew out of it.
Amicus seems to ignore the cat, circling me.
Come on, don't hold back. Mostly I just want to train my reflexes.
I try to shake off my timidness and move forward, throwing an awkward punch at Amicus's chest. The wolf easily slaps it away.
I hope you can do better than that, Marco.
I blush and put a little more effort into a quick punch at the wolf's side, which he dodges with a jump to the right. I follow him and jab at his stomach, which he blocks with an elbow.
Oh, come on. You can hit harder than that.
We go on for a while longer until I finally stop, huffing. Amicus comes up from his crouch.
What's wrong? Tired already?
I shake my head. Honestly, I just don't like throwing punches at you. Feels kinda wrong. Alex perks up.
See? Marco understands.
Amicus rolls his eyes.
You're both soft. There's nothing wrong with a bit of sanctioned combat. In fact, I'd say it creates a more civilized...
I take the opportunity to jab Amicus in the side, making the wolf grunt. Amicus turns on me with widened eyes. Oops. Amicus frowns while Alex laughs.
I'll show you an oops.
Amicus smirks as he ducks in, grabbing my arms and easily pinning them behind my back. Hey! Amicus growls playfully into my ear.
Ha! Now it's your turn to train. Try and get out of this.
He leans heavily against me, using his weight to his advantage. It's clear I have no chance of getting out of the hold, but I try anyway, struggling and complaining.
Amicus!
I jump, and so does Amicus, the wolf immediately letting me go. The sudden lack of support almost causes me to faceplant before Amicus catches me and sets me back on my feet. I turn around and see Kato. Despite the volume and fury in his voice just moments earlier, he appears almost calm. Amicus and I stand there for a moment, breathing heavily. Then Amicus bows.
Good morning, Kato.
I quickly follow suit, bowing low. There's a moment of silence as Kato regards us both.
Afternoon, you mean? You're late.
My apologies. I lost track of the time at the lake.
Your pet did not remind you. Is that not one of his duties?
Kato's gaze snaps in my direction, and I almost jump. I don't know what to do, so I go back to bowing, wondering if I should apologize.
I have not taught him our hours yet, Kato. It's my fault.
Kato watches us for a moment longer, then begins unfastening his robe.
Luckily, my appointment with the Praetor has been cancelled. So despite your tardiness, we may train.
Kato tosses his robe aside.
Move, pet.
I stand there like an idiot for a moment before realizing he's talking to me. I hurry over to sit down next to Alex, and I can tell by the expression on his face that he's also a bit worried.
I see you've already warmed up.
Kato glances over at me again before turning back to Amicus, getting into a crouch. Amicus stands awkwardly for a moment before doing the same.
Yes. Did you need to? I did mine while waiting for you for over half an hour, Amicus.
Ah. The two big wolves start circling each other. I want to ask Alex if this is normal, but something tells me I shouldn't speak out of turn in the presence of Kato.
Your brother had a very successful speech in the city today. Over 500,000 attended.
Amicus seems thrown off by what Kato said, but then Kato's fist snaps out and smacks Amicus right on the nose.
Ah!
The wolf stumbles back, blinking and snorting as he holds his face. I wince. Didn't Amicus just tell me they don't go for the face during training? I look at Alex questioningly, but the cat is now looking firmly at the ground between his feet, his ears down.
That's double his last speech, Amicus, and it rivals your father's early days as emperor.
Amicus has recovered at this point, and he's got his paws back up, his teeth bared. He doesn't respond and starts circling Kato again, and this time he attacks first, throwing an elbow at Kato's face. Kato ducks it and moves to the side, smacking a fist into Amicus's back, right over the kidney.
Ah!
Amicus lets out a pained grunt, bending sideways and stumbling before forcing himself back into position, his teeth showing now.
And while you were being a pup at the lake, Cassius was touring the countryside, and even that drew thousands.
Kato throws a sudden kick at Amicus's thigh, and I look away, but I still hear the painful thwack of furry flesh on furry flesh. This isn't training. This is punishment.
Stealing a ship and flying across the galaxy will only get you so far, Amicus. You win the people over, not me.
Amicus bull rushes the old wolf, grabbing one of Kato's legs by the thigh, lifting it off the ground while he starts throwing vicious punches into the older wolf's face. Kato seems to become dazed, stumbling on his one foot, raising his paws to protect himself. I silently root for Amicus, wanting to see him put the old man on his ass. But then, Kato's paw comes around in a vicious slap that turns Amicus's head to the right. He drops Kato's leg, and that's when the old wolf wraps his arms around Amicus's waist, setting his shoulder into the other wolf's stomach before actually lifting him up off the ground. I don't know exactly how much Amicus weighs, but it's probably around the same as Kato himself, and somehow the old wolf is able to carry Amicus across the pit in a rush. Alex and I dive out of the way as Kato crushes Amicus into the stairs with a thudding crunch. I look back and see Amicus folded around Kato's shoulder, making a sound like a deflating tire as his eyes bulge. After a moment, Kato finally pulls back. Amicus curls up and rolls down the few steps to the pit of the amphitheater, making a horrible groaning sound. Kato, meanwhile, straightens out his undergarments before turning to pick his robes up.
Good spar, Amicus. I hope you learned something from it. I announced to the public that the trials will begin at the end of this month. Remember that your pet will be involved, so be sure that he's prepared.
Kato ties on his robe as he walks away, then suddenly turns as if forgetting something, addressing the still wheezing Amicus.
Oh, and your sister and her guest arrived today. She requested to see you in the Great Hall as soon as our session ended.
And with that, Kato stalks off, his robes billowing in the wind. I rush to Amicus's side. Amicus! Are you okay? I know that wolves are tougher than humans, but if I'd been slammed into the stairs like that, there's a good chance I'd never get back up. I set a hand on Amicus's back as he hugs at his middle and presses his face against the stone floor. He keeps making a strained, grunting sound, and I can see a strand of drool connecting from his lips to the ground. Alex stands next to us, nervously fidgeting with his robe. Amicus? Amicus surprises me by roughly pushing my hand away.
I just lost my wind. Give me a moment.
Amicus turns away from me, then rolls onto his back, his paws above his head. His breathing is still irregular, but at least he is breathing. Alex clears his throat.
Amicus, do you need medical attention?
Amicus takes a deep breath, then lets it out slowly.
No, Alex.
All right. Then I should probably take my leave. I don't know when Cassius will return.
Alex, looking extremely uncomfortable, bows to both of us.
Amicus, Marco, thank you for the outing. It was very relaxing.
He then quickly makes his exit down the stone path, disappearing through the trees. I stand awkwardly off to the side, waiting for Amicus to recover.
Some ambassador friend he is.
He opens one eye, looking at me.
You know, you can head back to the palace as well.
I just want to make sure you're okay.
I'm fine.
I mean, he hit you really hard. I'm a little worried.
Don't be. Go back to my room.
Amicus's usually cheerful mood has completely dissipated. Well, if I'm pretending to be your pet, then I guess I'll just pretend to be worried, all right? Amicus just grunts and finally gets to his feet, wincing as he does. He straightens out his undergarments, which had twisted off to the side before walking toward the same path Alex had taken. I quickly catch up, following a few steps behind the wolf. Amicus is hunched over, walking with a light limp. I feel a wave of anger for Kato. He'd been nice to me yesterday, but now I realize that isn't typical for him. I understood the lesson he was teaching Amicus in the amphitheater, but I don't understand why it had to involve violence. Is this how the wolves normally treat each other? Fake civility with bursts of savage aggression? Was that was what Kato did normal?
What do you mean?
I mean, does he usually just beat you like that? Amicus sighs deeply.
Not usually, no.
Seemed a bit much.
Can we not speak of this? I'm not in the mood.
I go quiet and see Amicus's ears fall flat for a bit before coming back up. We walk the rest of the way to the palace in silence. I'm sure to stay a few steps behind Amicus, wanting to give him space. I get the feeling that, while he's definitely upset about what happened, he's mostly just embarrassed that I saw it. We finally reach the main entrance to the palace, and just as we turn to enter the Great Hall,
Amicus!
a high sing-song voice echoes around the marble walls as a slight, wolfish figure quickly approaches us. A wolf, who I can only imagine is Virginia, walks up to Amicus. She places both paws on his shoulders and leans in, pressing the side of her face to his.
Hi, Virginia.
Virginia pulls back, rolling her eyes.
Amicus, I took your place on a trip around the moon for a full week, and your only response is hi?
Sorry, I'm not feeling all that well.
Oh? Was Kato too rough with you during training? Shall I have a word with him?
No, I'm just sore.
You could use a shower too. You smell dreadful.
We were swimming in the lake. Never mind. I should be getting back to my room.
Enough with the dour mood, Amicus. Not until we introduce our guests to each other.
Virginia looks right at me, over Amicus's shoulder. Amicus sighs, then reaches out his paw to me. I walk over to him, letting the wolf place his paw on my shoulder.
This is Marco. He's an abandoned child.
Oh, fascinating. I thought Cass was pulling my tail in his letters.
Virginia stretches out a paw. I stand there awkwardly, unsure of what to do. So I reach out and take her paw in my hand. Then, after another pause, I lean down and brush my lips on her fur, like I'd seen people do in movies.
Huh, interesting. It seems they have some sort of etiquette.
I step back, keeping my head down.
A bit, yes. Now, where's the Chemian?
Manners, Amicus. He's examining the murals.
She turns to her right, raising her voice a bit.
Neferu, could you come over and meet my brother, please?
There's a moment of silence, then soft footsteps. A canine appears around the corner, his fur much darker than the wolves, almost pitch black. He's covered in gold highlights, and immediately I'm struck by how he looks. Not just because his presence is impressive, it definitely is, but mostly because he reminds me of something on Earth. Not just something, but an entire thing. A culture. As I stare, I realize that he's not looking at Amicus, but at me. I quickly look down again, not wanting to draw attention to myself.
Neferu, this is my brother, Amicus.
Neferu bows his head slightly in Amicus's direction.
Hello! Thank you for letting me take up residence in your palace. It is indeed beautiful.
It's hard to describe, but I immediately know that Neferu is speaking a different language than the wolves. It has a different feel in my brain, like a different dialect. Certainly. You'll have to excuse my appearance. I was just out combat training.
Oh, I see. It must have been a rough session, by the looks of it.
Neferu gives Amicus a cool smile, and Amicus can only manage a grunt in response, self-consciously running a paw over his head fur. That's when Neferu turns his cool, blue gaze onto me.
And who might you be?
I open my mouth to answer, then catch myself and quickly look back down. This is Marco, my pet. He's an abandoned child. Amicus says it quickly, putting his paw on my shoulder again while gently pulling me in the direction of his room. It was wonderful meeting you, but now I must be off to my shower. Neferu offers his paw to me. I pause again, but Amicus just stares at Neferu, so I take it and do the same as I did with Virginia. Neferu lets out a soft chuckle as I let go of his paw.
What a fascinating creature. Do you speak?
I make sure to give a long pause, then... Little.
I see.
Neferu keeps his eyes fixed on me, and I have to wonder why the hell he's taken such an interest. Ahem. Amicus draws me closer to his side with a paw before starting to walk in the direction of the hall. If you'll excuse us, I need my pet's assistance in the showers. Pleasure meeting you. Virginia, who had been silent throughout, smiles.
Don't worry, Neferu. We just caught my brother in a bad mood. Usually he's much more friendly.
I can hear you, Virginia. I'm still here.
So you are. Yet you said you had to be off. We shall speak more in depth in the evening, perhaps when you've stopped sulking.
Amicus grunts non-committally and pulls me along towards his bedroom. As we arrive at Amicus's room, there's a cart of flatbread, vegetables, and a bowl of sauce sitting outside the door. I've come to realize that there are two main meals of the day, breakfast and dinner, with a sort of midday snack in between. Amicus grabs the cart and shoves it into the room towards the sofa, almost rattling the contents to the floor. Then, without a word, he heads straight to the shower, leaving me to sit on the couch while I frown at the door. At first, I think about calling him out on his bad mood when he comes back out. Maybe go on about how I didn't ask to be here, and him being an ass only makes it worse. But then, I start to realize that maybe I wouldn't be so happy myself if I'd gotten my ass kicked in front of my friends. I spend the next 15 minutes or so spreading the orange-colored sauce on the flatbread before sprinkling the vegetables on top and rolling it into a wrap. It's good, and the sauce is one of the first spicy things that I've experienced on this moon. Then Amicus comes back out, looking particularly fluffy. I'm about to ask if he wants to get brushed, but he just falls back onto his bed with a groan. You all right? Never better. A few of the chopped peppers fall out of my wrap onto the sofa, and I quickly pick them back up and set them on the cart. This is actually really good. I was starting to worry that you guys didn't have food with actual flavor here. You know, the country where you guys uplifted, Italy, it's known for its food.
Actually, before you, took me, I had this trip planned to go to Naples, which is a few hours just outside of Rome, just to try the pizza. Do you have pizza here? Amicus gazes at me with a frown. I wonder if he understood a single thing I said.
No.
Oh, well, it's sort of like this if I'd kept it flat and we baked it. Anyway, you want some? I hold up my wrap with a smile. Amicus glares.
I just had my guts squashed flatter than that flatbread, and you're assuming I still have an appetite.
I quickly lower it. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Amicus goes on staring at the ceiling while I nibble on the food, though I'm not really all that hungry anymore. Then Amicus sighs deeply, covering his face with his paws.
I'm sorry. I've just been thinking a lot is all.
About? Amicus just shakes his head, continuing to rub his brow.
Well, how sore I am for one.
I look over at the wolf, then remember what he said last night about the massage. I think about it for a moment. Amicus has been trying to make me as comfortable as possible throughout the few days that I've been here, minus the sofa. I kind of feel like I owe it to him. You want a massage? I see Amicus freeze up, his face still covered with his paws until he finally lowers them, his expression almost comical.
What?
I feel myself turning red. I asked if you want a massage.
I thought you didn't want to.
Well, I never really gave you an answer, did I? Amicus narrows his eyes.
I don't want to force you into something you don't want to do.
Well, I'm offering, but if you don't want it... I start to sit back down. Amicus's ears fall flat.
No, please do.
I try to hide my smile as I get back up and approach the bed. Amicus just sort of watches me, half sitting up. Once I get to the edge of the bed, I pause. So what do I do? Amicus rolls over onto his front.
Well, honestly, I don't really know how it's supposed to be done, but you could start with some light rubbing.
Cautiously, I get up onto the bed on my knees, trying not to get tangled up in my robe as I scoot closer. Tentatively, I reach out and touch the wolf's back. Amicus inhales gently, his back rising against my fingers. Then, slowly, I start to massage, starting on his thick neck before slowly rubbing my way down. I don't know the first thing about massaging, so I just do what feels natural, and Amicus seems to like it. When I reach his mid-back, he grunts.
Little more gentle there. Got scraped on the stairs.
I pause, then tease through the fur a bit and find a small, fresh scab right on Amicus's spine. I pet the fur back down before moving past it, working my thumbs into the muscles on either side of the wolf's spine. Kato's an asshole. Amicus lets out a choked cough of surprise.
Marco, don't say that. He's the acting emperor.
Well, he is.
If you must say it, at least keep your voice down. I swear, Cassius sometimes has his ear pressed to my door.
Amicus moans as I start on his neck again and press harder than I had last time, really sinking into the muscle. The wolf's body melts into the bed, and I grin with satisfaction as I keep up the pressure down the rest of his back. It would be easier if I were straddling him, but I don't know how I feel about doing that just yet. Amicus is quiet for a few minutes while I work. Then he sighs.
He was right, though. I still act like a pup. I need to be more serious.
I frown. What do you mean?
Kato had every right to beat me. I haven't been acting very much like an emperor lately.
I shake my head. First of all, no one should be beaten. Second, Cassius acts just like a child, or pup. I mean, you might sometimes act a little immature, but he's a brat. You're fine if he's the one you're competing with. Besides, you're a lot of fun to be around. If I were a wolf, I would think it's pretty cool to have an emperor as nice and fun as you are.
Oh, really? Then I suppose things are different here. I forgot myself at the lake today, and when Kato caught me teasing you.
Amicus presses his face into the pillow, cringing. Can you not have fun as the prospective emperor?
Not really. Cassius hasn't been out in the lake for years. Sometimes I think something is wrong with me, that I still enjoy such things.
I think, trying to decide whether my opinion is worth anything on this alien moon. Well, I don't think so. People our age on Earth do way dumber stuff to have fun, and it's considered normal. Even when you get older, you're expected to do things you enjoy. Otherwise, what's the point of life? We're only here for a moment before we die, and that's it. I can't help but feel that my argument is a bit amateurish. Amicus doesn't seem convinced either.
Well, first of all, the point of my life is to lead my people to a better future. Secondly, we become one with the parents when we die.
I frown. Become one? What, do they absorb your soul or something? I stifle my chuckle when I see that Amicus is still very serious.
No, well, I don't know. But our consciousness joins theirs, and we go on to spread throughout the universe together.
Huh. Is there proof of this? Did they say that's what happens?
Of course.
I think of questioning him further, but right now I'm not really in the mood to debate anything religious with this wolf. His mind seems to be on the having fun issue anyway. Well, I will say that the Roman emperors on Earth had a lot of fun. I laugh. There was an emperor named Elagabalus that didn't really give a shit about what the people thought of him. He had all the fun and sex he wanted.
Oh?
Amicus sounds amused. Then I wince, remembering that no one really liked Elagabalus, and he was killed along with his male lover. Then his beheaded body was dragged through the streets of Rome. Well, I think balance is a good thing to have in life. Be serious when you need to be. Have fun when you can. Amicus just grunts again, and I go on rubbing for a while longer.
Oh, so while I was at my studies, I had some time in the library to myself. I found this primate species in the general vicinity of your star. They were part of a failed uplift and looked generally similar to you. A lot hairier, but I don't think anyone will notice. The name they have for themselves isn't pronounceable by us, but we named them the Simians. So if anyone asks you what you are, tell them that.
Oh, okay. I repeat the word in my head, trying to memorize it.
Also, I would recommend avoiding that Chemian. I didn't like the looks of him.
Why not?
I don't know, but his demeanor was rather rude. I've heard they're an arrogant people, but to see it in person.
I almost laugh at the hypocrisy of that statement. I'd point it out if Amicus wasn't being so grumpy right now.
And the way he looked at you didn't sit well with me. Just be sure you watch out for him.
I didn't really see much of a difference between Neferu and the wolves, aside from their appearance, but Amicus seems genuinely concerned. All right. Amicus grunts in response, and I go on rubbing for a little while longer. Then Amicus rolls over. I pause. Amicus suddenly opens his eyes, as if realizing what he's doing.
Oh,
Do I do your front, too?
Well, often after I get my massage, my drone rubs me. It helps me fall asleep for my afternoon naps.
Rubs you where? Amicus's ears turn bright red.
My belly.
I laugh.
Don't laugh. You're the one that wanted to know.
I hesitate, and then almost automatically my hand reaches out and starts to rub. Amicus is tense at first, then starts to relax, the blush in his ears receding. You're such a canine.
I am a canine.
The fur, fluffy and disheveled from the shower, smooths down against the wolf's thick stomach, his belly rising and falling against my hand. In his relaxed state, his stomach is soft under the fur, and I press down a bit more firmly to really rub at it. Amicus grunts and winces a bit. Too hard?
Just sore. But keep going. It feels good.
As I continue to rub, his eyes close and his muzzle parts slightly. So, the trials start soon. At the end of the month, I guess?
Yes.
And I'm involved in it somehow. Wanna talk about it later? Now that I'm thinking about it, I'm getting a bit nervous. But Amicus doesn't seem to be worried, and that puts me at ease, at least a little bit. That's when I notice the particular bulge in Amicus's undergarments, the one I'd noticed when I'd brushed him yesterday. I'm not surprised this time, though. If brushing had done it to him, rubbing definitely would too. So I ignore it, and so does Amicus. Or maybe he's just asleep. I realize then just how much I've accepted my life here, rubbing this prospective Emperor Wolf's belly, even though I know it's making him hard. But I also realize that I don't really mind it. It's only been a few days, but there's something about this wolf. I don't know, I just like him. Amicus starts to snore, so I slowly stop rubbing, watching his chest rise and fall with his steady breaths. I think about going back over to the sofa, but instead I just roll over to Amicus's left, curling up on my side in the soft pillows. With the relaxing sounds of Amicus's gentle snores behind me, I drift off into a light sleep.
Welcome to the after reading. In this episode, Amicus is in a bad mood because Kato beat him up and embarrassed him in front of the others, and Marco actively chooses to not call him out on this. Why is this important? Well, I feel that this moment represents a pretty big change for Marco. This is the same day that the beach trip happened, after all, and the main reason they went on that trip was because there wasn't anything interesting for Marco to do besides pull weeds in the garden. In short, Marco realizes that Amicus is a man of his word and has been putting in the effort to make Marco's stay as pleasant as possible. So, even though it's only been a few days, Marco feels a level of empathy for Amicus and the situation he's gotten them both into. This takes Marco from being a little bratty early on to choosing to make small talk with the beat-up wolf to try and lighten the mood. Then, when that doesn't work, Marco offers that massage he'd passed on the day before. Hell, he even substitutes the word kidnapping for the word took when he's talking about the plans he'd made before he was abducted. After a while, Amicus apologizes for his mood, and the two even talk about their feelings. During their conversation, we learn a little bit about Adastran religion. Amicus explains that when his people die, their consciousnesses join up with the parents, and they all live in a sort of collective afterlife, drifting around, doing whatever it is the parents do in the greater universe. Of course, as an outsider, Marco isn't really buying this. But considering that every wolf has a lingua implanted in their brains, and we already know that the parents can take control through said lingua, thanks to the mysterious force that caused Marco to not kill Amicus with that swing, it's possible that we might have an upload situation here, where a person may die, but a scan of their brain is used to preserve a digital copy of them in a sort of cyber afterlife. We also get to see the inkling of the green monster of jealousy bubbling up in our Wolf Emperor. He didn't care when his sister offered her paw to Marco, but when Neferu did it, that's an entirely different story. Someone better tell him that jealousy does not look good on him. So, what awaits Marco next on this crazy journey he's on? Find out in the next episode of Adastra. If you enjoyed this video, remember to give it a like, share it with fellow degenerates, and leave a comment for the almighty YouTube algorithm. Until next time, thanks for watching.